A 9-night flight from Germany to New York is accompanied by many ordinary passengers. A mother and her son, whose pasts are shrouded in a terrifying mystery, are suddenly hijacked, sending the passengers into panic. But in the meantime, everyone's fate changes. Because in addition to the plane hijacking, something has happened that no one has ever seen before. Will these passengers be released at all, or is there something more terrifying waiting for them? I was talking about Netflix's high-octane horror thriller movie Blood Red Star, which is about more than just Scotland, where a plane makes an emergency landing at 1 o'clock. This plane was hijacked by some terrorists, but now it has arrived. But the situation inside is still unknown. Soldiers stand ready and alert to evacuate the passengers. As the plane stops, its base commander looks into the cockpit and sees a man sitting there, suspicious. So, was any passenger one of the hijackers? They try to contact him, but he claims he is innocent. However, that was not at all convincing to the command. Just then, a small boy named Elias steps out through the plane's cargo door. He is questioned, but fear and pain are evident on his face. He cannot speak a word. At this point, the story flashes back to an earlier moment. In the flashback, a woman, Nadia, is waiting in the airport lounge with her son Elias as they prepare to head to New York. However, instead of completing the formalities for herself, Nadia sends her son ahead. This was because she was suffering from leukemia and was traveling to New York for treatment. She had already discussed her condition with her doctor over a video call. After Elias goes ahead, she is left alone, and a gentleman named Sharif steps forward to help her. Shortly after, before night falls, she heads toward her son again. However, her face is covered, and she is wearing glasses. Meanwhile, she needs medication, so she goes to get it. But as soon as she takes the medication, she starts experiencing some unusual changes. On the other hand, Elias and Sharif begin to develop a bond, and coincidentally, they end up on the same flight. Upon boarding the flight, the plane takes off toward its destination, and the passengers start to settle in for rest. But how long can the peace last? Suddenly, a mysterious commotion arises from inside the plane, terrifying the passengers. The air marshals step in to manage the situation, with 2 of the 3 heading to the scene. However, they fail to realize it was merely a ruse. The terrorists brutally kill them and slowly start executing their plan. Among the hijackers were a cabin crew member named 8-Ball and the co-pilot, Bastian. Before this, Bastian had poisoned the chief pilot to death, leaving the plane on autopilot. Moreover, they disable the black box so that the plane becomes invisible on the radar. Afterward, their leader announces that they are now in control of the aircraft and promises to keep everyone alive in exchange for ransom. Inside the plane, everyone remains in utter terror. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to a moment where Nadia's body is covered in blood, and her behavior starts to change. She begins to act in an unusual manner. On the other hand, the co-pilot redirects the plane toward an unknown destination. Taking advantage of the chaos, Elias tries to hide, attempting to escape the terror. Nadia searches for him, but unfortunately, she is captured by the ruthless hijackers. Her failure to comply with orders infuriates 8-Ball, who suddenly opens fire. Witnessing this horrific scene from a distance, Elias breaks down. The story then returns to an earlier time, years ago, when Elias was much younger. One day, his mother Nadia and father Nikolai were on a vacation to a peaceful area. Everything seemed fine until their car broke down on the road. Nikolai got out of the car and went far away to seek help, but he did not return for a long time. Worried, Nadia stepped out of the car with Elias and began searching for her husband. They eventually reached a deserted cottage, and as soon as they entered, Nadia sensed the presence of a strange, unfamiliar man inside. His behavior was violent and inhuman. She quickly hid with Elias in one of the rooms and then discovered Nikolai's lifeless, bloodied body lying there. Suddenly, the strange man tried to enter the room through the window. Nadia fought him off with all her strength, and at that very moment, sunlight broke in, causing the man to burn to death. It was only then that Nadia realized he was a vampire. However, this was not the end of her nightmare. Before dying, the vampire had bitten her. That night was a turning point in her life. She was no longer human. She had become a cursed existence. When she returned home, she began to notice her body changing. Her hunger was rising. Something inside her was awakening, her fangs were growing, and she was taking on a ferocious form. The trip to New York for leukemia treatment was, in fact, an attempt to suppress her vampire instincts. Back in the present, although Nadia was shot multiple times, she did not die. She awakens again and makes her way to the plane's cargo area. There, she finds a dog and several terrorists, planning something concerning the plane. This was part 1. If you want to watch part 2, write, part 2, in the comments and make sure to subscribe to the channel.